ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. فاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري أنه قال: عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال: سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت: دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. فقال: السلام عليك يا فاطمة. فقلت: عليك السلام. قال: إني أجد في بطني ضعفا. فقلت له: أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف. فقال: يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به. فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلأله كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله. فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء. فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله. أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي. قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال: السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت: عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال: يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت: نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال: وعليك السلام يا ولدي ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك، فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال: السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت: عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال: يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت: نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له: عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وصي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرفي الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمعي، يعلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صل على محمد. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي، إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل: يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد. فقال جبرائيل: يا رب أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم، قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك: وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنيا ولا أرضا مدحيا ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال علي رضا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثاني يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا واسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي نور قلوب العارفين بنور معرفته وأثبت فؤاد أنبيائه وأوليائه بقصص الأنبياء والمرسلين وأكمل إيمان المسلمين والمؤمنين بولاية علي أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام. والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أفضل الموجودات العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد أعني أبا القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى روحه ونفسه وصهره ووسيه سيد الأتقياء والأصفياء مولى الموالي إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب وعلى أوصيائه لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفدا واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أعلم حيث يجعل رسالته صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. First of all, I'd like to congratulate everyone on the wiladat of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Raza alayhi salatu wassalam. I would like to also pay my condolences to all the mu'mineen and mu'minat on the martyrdom of all the shuhada in the helicopter crash in Iran yesterday. May Allah bless their souls and resurrect them with the shuhada of Karbala. Briefly, I'd like to talk about Imam Raza alayhi salam. It is 11th of Dhul Qa'dah today, which is the wiladat of Imam Raza alayhi salam. And the person who has become a martyr, he was also the mutawalli, or the head of the haram and the shrine of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Now, there are many aspects of the life of Imam Raza alayhi salam, and one of them is his journey from Medina to Khurasan. Human beings have migrated many a times in human history, and this migration is common. We are all immigrants, we have all migrated, and hijrat is mustahab, is sunnah of the Holy Prophet. One must migrate for better future, for protecting their iman, and for many reasons, for better financial situation, for political gain, because in ayat of the Holy Quran, there are many verses that say that people will complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment and say, Ya Allah, our life was not protected. And Allah would say that, Alaysa ardullahi wasi'a, was the earth of Lord not big enough for you to travel elsewhere or migrate? So hijrat is something that is encouraged for many reasons. One of them is gaining knowledge. So a muhajir gains knowledge. So hijrat is something that inshallah gives a person, there is a hadith by Amir Romani alayhi salam, where he says that many people think that knowledge will be at home or in your hometown. Innamal ilmu fil ghurbah. Knowledge is in migration, meaning going away from home. Meaning when you go away from home, what happens is that you become isolated, you become lonely, and you feel, why have I come? Why did I migrate? And then you realize that I've come for a good reason. I've come to learn, to gain knowledge. So you work hard. Innamal ilmu fil ju'i wal juhd. Indeed, knowledge is in hunger and hard work. So knowledge is not in, full stomachs and rest. Many people like to rest and then, lie down and then study. A hadith says that no, don't fill your stomach to the maximum and then start studying, because you will fall asleep. So, always be attentive, and for attentiveness you need to be not full to the stomach, to the maximum. So there are many hadith that indicate upon gaining knowledge. So immigration or migration, hijrah. Ana muhajirun ila Rabbi. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam says, Inni muhajirun ila Rabbi. I am migrating to my Lord. So the hijrah should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hijrah should be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From shaitan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do you migrate to Allah when Allah is not confined in a place? Hijrat, to save your life and your iman, is migrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes even in your own town, you can migrate from shaitan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Holy Prophet migrated from Makkah to Medina, and that's a major migration. Then Amir Romani alayhi salam migrated twice, from Makkah to Medina, but then from Medina himself to Kufa. Imam Hussain alayhi salam migrated from Medina to Karbala. And when the Holy Prophet migrated, he always missed Makkah. He said that was my hometown. He always remembered Makkah. And he always mentioned it with good words. And he said that I miss my hometown, the town of my forefathers, my parents. Well, his mother was from a town outside Medina, a village. But generally his forefathers lived in Makkah. So he always remembered Makkah with good words. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Ahlulbait AS, they called Medina to Nabi, the Medina, the town of the Holy Prophet, and they would always miss Medina. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he remembered Medina. And he says that I had to move the capital from Medina to Kufa for political reasons, otherwise I did not wish to move myself. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam likewise says that I did not wish for the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Makkah, and the haram of my grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Medina, to be destroyed by Yazid, and that's why I migrated from Makkah and Medina to Karbala. So do not go to wars or battles in holy sites. Don't ever fight in holy sites. It's, your a'mal, well, don't even fight, or, don't even argue in holy sites, because it takes away your good deeds. Likewise, Imam Raza Islam migrated from Medina to Khurasan. Now, this migration was not with pleasure again, just like the other Imams or the Holy Prophet. This migration was due to Ma'mun, who, Harun Rashid had one of the biggest governments in Islam. Everyone so far, people paying attention? Harun Rashid, the current Muslim world, you can imagine, no, not all of the Muslim world, because Muslim world has increased all the way up to Far East and Africa. So Northern Africa and the whole of Middle East or West Asia, that was all of the Islamic world, Central Asia as well, parts of Central Asia. And all of that was the government of Harun al-Rashid. La'natullah alayhi, Can you imagine he had such a big government? There is a story, probably not so nice, but I don't know if I should mention it or not. I mean, now, I just remembered it. That a person asked Harun, that he had placed Imam Musa Kazim al-Islam in the prison, yes? I'm not sure if it is Hazrat, Bohlul Dana, Bohlul Device. I think it is another person. But there is another person who asked him, he said, Harun, what if you had an illness that you could not urinate? Yes, in olden days there was an illness, and still today in many parts of, hot climate countries, when you become too thirsty, you haven't had water, then you get an illness where you cannot urinate. He said, well, how would you feel? He said, I would give half of my government to the person who cures my illness. Because you see, people die if you cannot urinate, then you die because of the pain. And he said, what if you were thirsty again and you had no water to drink? What would you do to the person who gave you water to drink? He said, I'll give him my other half of the government. He said, then your entire government is only one thirst and one urination, for whom you have killed all of Ahlulbait AS. He never learned a lesson. He still didn't learn. I hope people are paying attention. There's a lesson in it, but inshallah, if you pay attention later, you'll probably understand it. Can you imagine? So this is the government that Imam, Harun Rashid, when he was dying, his wife, he was only 49 when he died. He could not sleep after killing Imam Musa Kazim al-Islam. So his wife, who was his cousin as well, she said, give a part of the government to my son as well. Ma'mun Rashid and Amin. Abdullah Ma'mun and Amin. Amin was the son of Zubaydah, Harun's first cousin. And Amin was not a very intelligent person. So he divided the entire, so he said, well, he doesn't deserve it, but I'll divide the entire government into two. So the Central Asia and Iran and all of these parts will go to Ma'mun. And Iraq, the Hijaz, Yemen, all of the North Africa, this will go to Amin. When Ma'mun came into power, the first thing he asked his wazir, the most important prime minister, whatever you want to call him, the most important person after the Khalifa or the king was wazir in those days. So he asked him, he said, can you remind me of the people who are threat to my khilafat? He said, your brother Amin. He said, he doesn't have brains, I'll kill him. Meaning, before he came into power, he was already planning to kill his brother. Can you imagine? This is how evil a government can become. People can kill their own kith and kin. And the second, he said, who is the second? He said, second is his wazir. He's also from Bani Abbas and he's very intelligent. He said, yes. He said, but you said 3 people. I have threat from 3 people. Who is the third? These 2 I already knew. He said, the third is Ali ibn Musa al-Raza alayhi salam. He said, who is that? He said, that is the Imam who deserves this khilafat, and your forefathers stole the khilafat in their name from Bani Umayyah, and he deserves the khilafat. He said, okay, tell me more about him. How does he look? He said, he's very handsome. He said, can you describe his speech? He said, when he speaks, the world listens. He said, can you describe me his ibadat? He said, when he prays or fasts or reads Quran, as if Quran was revealed for him, namaz was made for him. So he went into a lot of detail about Imam Raza Islam. He said, how is his relationship with the people? He said, if the people look at him, they become his. Does that make sense? I hope people are paying attention. If the people look at him, they become his. He said, where does he live? He lives in Medina. What does he think? He said, he thinks that it is his right. The Khilafat and all of this government is his right. He said, okay, then bring him to Khurasan, to Iran. Marv. Mashhad was not the capital, Marv was. So I said, bring him to Khurasan. And when you carry him to Khurasan, then carry him in Saydan. Saddle is on the back of the horse and Saydan is on the back of the camel, yes? The saddle is not usually covered. But the Saydan, the camels, you cover it sometimes. So he said, bring him in a Saydan. He said, why? Ladies are carried in Saydan, He's a man. He said, no, because you told me that when people look at him, they are inspired. I don't want anyone to have a stare at him. I don't want him to win and conquer the people by speaking to them and by mixing with the people, and so the people don't even look at him. Can you imagine? He said, then what do we do? He said, and do not travel through Shia areas. So travel through the areas where there are Christians or people who don't believe in Ahlulbait. People don't know about Ahlulbait. And he sent a small army to Medina to bring Imam Raza over to Khurasan, to Mashhad, or near Mashhad. The original name of Mashhad is Tus. And it was named Mashhadur Raza, the place of Shahadat of Imam Raza. Mashhad means place of Shahadat, like Maqtal. Yes, everyone paying attention? So Maqtal, place of Qatl. Qatl, Karbala was the, Maqtal of Imam Hussain Islam. Mashhad, the Shahadat, the place of Shahadat of Imam Raza. So that's why Tus was named Mashhadur Raza, the place of Shahadat of Imam Raza. Like Yathrib was named Madinatun Nabi. And then later on everyone started calling it Medina, the city of the Holy Prophet. And likewise the Iranians, for them, the word Mashhad was a new word. So they started calling it not Mashhadur Raza, but just Mashhad for Imam Raza. Just like Medina. So when they were traveling and the caravan would stop at times of namaz and for lunch, for dinner, for resting at night. Whenever they would stop, the whole town would see that there is a caravan traveling with officials from the government, and they would come and see Imam Raza. And when the people would come, they would ask questions and say, who is this man? And they would say, you can't talk to him. The Imam would lead the prayers, he would recite Quran. And just by reciting Quran and leading the prayers, he would capture the entire village that he had been visiting. Everyone would become inspired by this man, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Raza alayhi salatu wasalam. The people would love him, and who is he? We want to speak to him. The people traveling with the Imam alayhi salam, the soldiers of the army, soldiers of Ma'mun, just by traveling for a few weeks with Imam Raza alayhi salam, majority of them converted and became the followers of Imam Raza alayhi salam. This is a true Imam. The Imams alayhi salam, the life. Imam alayhi salam are much greater. Even some great mu'mineen, some great scholars, when you spend some time with them, you even learn from them their life, not only just by their speech, but by their life, the way they conduct themselves, the way they travel, the way they speak, the way they eat, the way they move. Every little act of their life, you learn from them. You see that they follow a path. So the Imam alayhi salam was miraculous, in his, he contained himself, the way he smiled and the way he spoke. Whenever he speaks, there is a khutbah or a speech that converts people. And the famous hadith of Silsilat al-Zahab, where the people say 16,000 or 18,000 muhaddithin had gathered. In that time, this was a huge number, 16,000 muhaddithin. Muhaddithin means experts of hadith. Experts, and majority were not Shia. In Nishapur was a center of education. And when they all gathered, they only just wanted one hadith from the Imam Islam. The famous hadith, chain of narration, golden chain of narrations. And the Imam al-Islam says this hadith just before he goes to, Mashhad or Tus or Marv in Nishapur, because Nishapur is also in Khurasan. Yes, the province of Khurasan. He says, Kalimatu la ilaha illallah hisni, فَمَنْ أَمِنَ حِسْنِي أَمِنَ مِنْ عَذَابِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the word La ilaha illallah is my fort, and anyone who enters my fort has been saved from my wrath. بِشُرُوطِهَا. And it has conditions. La ilaha illallah has conditions. وَأَنَا مِنْ شُرُوطِهَا. And I'm one of the conditions. As soon as he arrives in Khurasan, in Marv, Ma'mun says to him, he looks at him and he realizes that yes, he is very important. And I'd mentioned the day before yesterday, when some of you were present in the other day in the Jashan, that all the Khulafa wanted the A'imma alayhimus salam, A'imma Ahlulbait AS to pay allegiance to them. They wanted bay'at from the A'imma alayhimus salam. Why? Because they wanted endorsement for themselves. And Ma'mun thought of a new plan. I'll not ask the allegiance of the Imam alayhi salam. I'll ask him to become my crown prince. If he becomes my crown prince, that would be an endorsement for myself that he's my crown prince. That means I'm righteous and therefore he's my crown prince. So he asked the Imam alayhi salam, I want you to become my crown prince. The Imam said, Marhum Ayatollah Sayyid Ja'far Murtada Amili, one of the biggest historians of our time, he wrote a book on Imam Raza alayhi salam called Al-Hayatu Siyasiyya lil Imam Raza alayhi salam, the political life of Imam Raza alayhi salam. In that he says that Imam intentionally had said Hadith Silsilatul Dhahab, the golden chain of narration, to tell Ma'mun, I am one of the conditions of Tawheed. Who are you to ask me to become your crown prince? I'm one of the conditions of Tawheed. La ilaha illallah is not acceptable if you don't believe in my vilayat and imamat. I had mentioned some debates the other day, and I want to mention some of the other aspects of the Imam's life. One of the most important parts of Imam al-Islam's life is recitation of Quran. And there is a teacher in Qom, he is probably 92, 93 now. And Atul Jawadi Amali, probably you've heard of him. He has one of the biggest tafasir called Tasneem, about 85 volumes. These are about 600, 700, 800 pages each. Tasneem, he's called it. Mizajahu min Tasneem in Surah Mutaffifin in Surah Quran. He takes all the books, names from Quran. So he's one of the biggest living mufassirin today. He's a student of Allama Tabatabai. I hope people are paying attention. I'm not boring you. So the life, he has a book on Imam Raza alayhi salam. He calls this the Quran from the point of view of Imam Raza alayhi salatu wassalam. And in that he says that how does an Imam look at the Holy Quran? You see, we look at the Holy Quran, but we don't see the reality of Quran. When the Holy Quran says, this is nur, this is light, we only see the paper and ink. We don't see the light in the Holy Quran because we are in darkness. Not that the Quran is dark. I hope people understand that point. The Quran is light. Quran is nur. Bal huwa noorun. Quran is nur. Fihi shifa. There is cure in it. So it has everything. Not only just cure for our physical health, but also the cure for our spiritual illnesses. Now, when you look at Imam Ali ibn Musa ar-Raza alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alayhi. When the Imam alayhi salam recites the Quran and there are people who listen to the recitation of Imam and they convert. Why do they convert? Because the same ayat I will recite will have one impact. Someone else will recite, it will have one impact. Someone greater, superior in terms of taqwa will recite, it will have a greater impact. And if the Imam or the Prophet recite the Holy Quran, did everyone... You see, they say that these sermons of Nahjul Balagha that we recite, it has an impact. What if Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam was performing these sermons for us? We only read the words of Ali alayhi salam. My teacher used to say, I wish we heard Ali speak to us. It would have a different impact. When the Quran is being recited, when a good Qari is reciting, it has an impact. Does it not? I hope other people also try and see the impact of the Quran. Good recitation has an impact on you. And when someone, very pious recites the Holy Quran, it has a very deep impact. It has an impact on your soul. I'll very quickly mention a story to try and prove the point that I'm trying to make. This is by Shaheed Dastaghaib, Sayyid Abdul Hussain Dastaghaib Shirazi. He mentioned in his Sarai Dige. You know, in Farsi, he has a tafsir on Surah Waqia. Surah Waqia. Yes, everyone? There is a tafsir called, Tafsir Surah Waqia. In that, he says that there was a man traveling, and when he was traveling, he passed different towns, and in one village, he saw there is a masjid. So he came to the masjid to pray, and he saw a young man, a very young man, doing namaz. So he looked at him and he said, this man, has so much light on his face. This is not an ordinary young man. So he says, I prayed my prayer, and then I went to the young man and said, do you know Quran? In olden days, you're all lucky you have a copy of the Holy Quran at home. In olden time, olden days, there was no printed copy. You had to memorize, or you had to copy from someone else's nuskha or, manuscript of the Holy Quran. He said, I love Quran, but I only know a few surahs. He said, how would you like to listen to the Holy Quran? He said, I would love to. Please read some ayat. And he says that he started reciting Quran. He said he recited the ayat of Surah Qayamat, the ayat that describe the Day of Judgment. Nadha'atun lishawa. Like the fire and the hellfire is so severe that it will burn down rocks and the human bones. So the young man, he started screaming and crying. The scholar thought, I recite these verses all the time. Look at the impact he is having of thee. He continued, and the young man fainted. Everyone started gathering, and they said, what happened? He said, I only recited some Quran, and this young man has fainted. They brought some water, they placed him on his face, and his family gathered, and they said, what's wrong? He said, I love the Quran that he's reciting. Can you recite some more ayat for me? Can you complete the surah? He continued describing the Day of Judgment, the hellfire, and the young man passed away. He died. This scholar, he became so upset. He said, I can't imagine the impact that this young man had of ayat concerning the hellfire and the Day of Judgment. He said to the family, you're all mourning, but I want to take part in the ghusl and kafan of this young man. He said, I took part in the ghusl and kafan, and he said, when I wanted to remove his shirt, I saw on his chest an ayat from the Holy Quran written with the pen of light, with nur. وَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ فِي جَنَّةٍ عَالِيَةٍ. And he is in the greatest level of paradise. وَهُوَ فِي جَنَّةٍ, and he has a very good life. He said, I was amazed even more, and I could not travel. I stopped there the night, they buried him. And the same night, I saw the same young man wearing a crown and, the garments of paradise. He said, I asked him in my dream, he said, how come you are in paradise wearing a crown and the best within the first night? He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a higher stature than the shuhada. He said, why? Greater than shuhada, you're not a shaheed. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angel said to me, Allah said to me that the shuhada were killed by the swords of my enemies, and you were killed by my ayat of my Quran. So you have a greater place in paradise than shuhada. Quran as manzare Imam Raza alayhi salam. When you read the book by Agha Jawadi Amali, that what is Quran? There is a hadith in Uyun Akhbar Raza. One of the greatest books on Imam Raza alayhi salam is by Sheikh Saduq, 2 volumes. There is an English translation. Uyun Akhbar Raza. Akhbar is a plural of khabar. Khabar means hadith. Yes? Everyone? For example, we have usulis and akhbaris. Akhbari meaning the ones who believes only in hadith. Yes? So that's why it's called akhbar. Akhbar. Uyun Akhbar Raza. Sheikh Saduq has a book called Uyun. The Uyun is a plural of ain. Ain has many, many meanings. One of them is eye. One of them is a spring. Yes? Jasus is also, a spy is also called an ain. I hope people are paying attention. So one of the meanings of ain is a spring. Spring that gushes out from the earth. Yes? Water, spring. Marhum Sheikh Saduq said, Uyunu Akhbar al-Raza. The springs or the oceans of the words of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Yes? 2 volumes. And he's compiled a few thousand ahadith from Imam Raza alayhi salam. Everything, all the sermons, all the debates, and all the ahadith and the letters of Imam Raza, the poetry of Imam Raza alayhi salam. 2 volumes, beautiful. There is an English translation of it. And in that, there is a hadith that says that Hazrat Khaja Abbas al-Tahirawi, yes, He was from Afghanistan, Herat. His name was Abdus Salam. Abba Salt was his kunniyat. Khaja Abba Salt Hiravi. When you go to Mashhad, his grave is there. He was a personal assistant to Imam Raza alayhi salam. Yes, a PA to Imam Raza. He would make appointments and sit down and translate for people, and he was Afghani, so he spoke Farsi. In Uyun Akhbar Raza, Sheikh Saduq has, with authentic chain of narration to Khaja Abba Salt Hiravi, he says, Khaja Abba Salt Hiravi himself says, Maula, when different people from different countries come and speak to you in their own languages, I am amazed that some of the languages that I also know, you speak the best dialect and the best accent and the best words. How do you know all the languages? He said, a hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on all the creation can never be a hujjat of Allah if it does not know the language of all the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only just the human beings, all the human beings, all the creations. Because He's hujjatullah ala khalqih, not ala al-insan, not ala nas. I hope people are paying attention. Not only just human beings, ala al-khalq, on all the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, the Imam. And there is an ayat in the Holy Quran talking about Hazrat Sulaiman. وَعُلِّمْنَا مَنْطِقَ الطَّيْرِ وَأُوتِينَا مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. We have been taught the words of the birds, and we've been given from everything. So even the prophets, they knew the words of the birds and animals, and they understood and they spoke. I hope people are paying attention. I'm not going to be too long. I've mentioned those debates so many different places that I'm not going to recite the debate of Imam Raza alayhi salam tonight. If you were here to listen to the debate in English, I'm sorry, I've recited it, in a number of places. It's already shared. Unfortunately, when you want to recite a new Jashan or Majlis, and people share the previous years the same day. And that is a problem with some of the people who are speakers like me, who travel and they say, oh, Maulana, we heard this lecture before. So then you have to keep. So I try and avoid some of the things that I've most famously already said about Imam Raza alayhi salam. I have a few majalis, so I'm not repeating the material from those. So the Imam alayhi salam, Khaja Abba Salt says that he spoke in so many different languages for so many different people, and he spoke perfectly. He spoke perfect Farsi, and he spoke to different experts from different religions in their own. Even the Romans, when they came to him, he spoke to them in their own language. And there are proofs from other Aimma. This is not just one hadith, so you can say probably weak. No, there are many, many other hadith similar about other Aimma alayhimus salam. And when Khaja Abba Salt asked, Maula, how do you know all the languages? He says, have you not heard my grandfather, Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam? Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala. He said, Maula, what did your grandfather, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, say? He said, my grandfather said, وَأُعْتِينَ فَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ. فَصْلَ الْخِطَابِ. The precise or, accurate or precise division. That whenever you have a dispute, the precise فَصْلُ الْخِطَابِ is that the one who comes and makes a clear distinction from wrong and right. Yes? That's called Faslul Khitab. He said, when my grandfather, commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib said, we have Faslul Khitab. We decide between good and evil. We need to understand everyone perfectly. The interpreter cannot translate for us. We have to understand the people directly. Anyway, so the Imam alayhi, this is each and every aspect of the life of the Imam alayhi is to be seen. Many people have, there is a book called Tibbur Raza, where the Imam alayhi describes with different illnesses, the cure for different illnesses. In olden days, herbal medicine. He goes into so much depth with herbal medicine. Some of those things, if you do, with our medicine, you cure one illness and then you have side effects and you pick up another. Sometimes a few. With corona vaccines, they've given a whole list. One vaccine, you end up with 50 illnesses. You could. Not necessarily, but I don't want to be controversial tonight. Anyone who's been regular on my Jummah khutbahs, they already know. So I will not say anything that, not criticizing anyone tonight, except for the enemies of Imam Raza alayhi salam. So the Imam alayhi salam, in Tibbur Raza, beautifully he gives you herbal medicine for so many different illnesses, I'll not now describe the illnesses. There are many scholars who are now working on those. Then there are people who came from different aspects of life, who were not even religious people. I'm not talking about the people who were, the archbishop or the chief rabbi. They came, but there was scholars from other walks of life who were learned, and they came to Imam Raza alayhi salam. And they sat down and they discussed, and then they realized that then Imam is not like a common clergy. Yes? A clergy can be, sometimes you have a clergy, a Maulana, whatever you call him, the Sheikh of any religion. They have one aspect of life, but the Imam alayhi salam is completely different. He knows about every aspect of life. And there are some aspects of life that we should understand. And one hadith I want to very quickly say from Imam Raza alayhi salatu wasalam for everyone. He says, Rahimallahu imra'an ahya amrana. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on the person who revives our commands. Qila kayfa yuhyi amrakum. Mawla, how do people revive your commands? He said, Law alima nas, inna nas, man yata'allama ulumana wa yu'allimuha nas. Law alima nasu mahasina kalamina lattaba'una. Anyone who learns our sciences and teaches the sciences to other people, he is the one who is reviving our commands. Because if the people knew the beauty of our words, they would surely follow us. Did you all follow that hadith? Learning the sciences of the Imam, meaning ulume ale Muhammad, the words. We speak from day to night and it becomes nothing. A'imma al-Muslim, whenever they spoke, it became hadith. We are walking, doing, eating, we're doing so many things all day long. A'imma alayhimus salam, the 14 infallibles, whatever they did became sunnah. Can you imagine how the Holy Prophet ate? If he used his right hand, was he standing up when drinking water? Was he sitting down? Each and every step makes it sunnah and makes it mustahab and worthy of being followed. Why? Because he does not do anything except with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when the Imam alayhi salam is telling someone off, it is for a reason that he says, don't do this, or we don't do this. So there are so many things that we learn from the life of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Finally, in the last part, I want to mention some of the hadiths that I was reading. I was reading through Uyun Akhbar Raza Volume 1 and 2 again today very quickly. So I couldn't obviously finish all 800 pages, but probably about 70, 80 pages I revised. I'll mention a few hadiths that I quickly want to say aloud salawat for the pleasure of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Muhammad Ali Muhammad. One of the most important aspects that the A'imma alayhimus salam emphasize on, so Quran recitation and gaining knowledge, these are common things that all of the Imams alayhimus salam emphasized. One of the most important aspects that today, last week, I think it is last week or the week before, the Pope has announced that next year, every 25 years, they have a year of spirituality. So next year will be a year of spirituality, and people will do pilgrims, pay homage to Vatican and other holy towns for the Christianity. And with that, he emphasized on the importance of family. Now, we are living in a part of the world where, I was reading through the stats of the Western world, which country has what divorce rate, and family, I'm going to be very explicit in some of these things, so please pay attention. And if anyone is offended, then I already apologize, but I will say these things. Now, 30, 40 years ago, the British clocks worked. The younger audience will not know this. Everything will close down by 6 o'clock. The shops and everything. Everyone had to go home. So no clubs, no pubs, no shops, nothing, no medical, everything's closed. And then weekends, everything was off. So it was an emphasis that people spend time with their family. And slowly, the whole centralization of family broke down. And then came, like the cinemas and so many things within the last 50, 60 years, that countries like India, Hindus in which divorce is haram, forbidden. Did anyone know that? Some of you didn't, most of you didn't. So now you learned something new. So Hindus, divorce is haram. So they, one of their gods is the fire, yes? So basically the lady walks behind the husband around the fire 7 times, saying, all men of the world are now brothers to me except you. And then once he goes around, behind her, yes, then they turn around and he says, all the women of the world are now my sisters except for you. So how do they divorce? Because they've taken an oath by God that they will never get married again. So they don't have divorce. So they now have a British system. So you go to court and get divorced because their scholars cannot perform divorce. There is no talaq. But divorce has now become common in India. So there was a study in psychology in India. How did it become so common? What made it so common? And believe it or not, the conclusion, they said many, many reasons. One of the major reasons was the American culture that came into India through American films. That made it easy. Well, if you don't like a person, then just get divorced. Now, in Islam as well, some people are now trying to promote divorce as if it is ikhtiyari. Everyone pay attention to these points. I know there are many young people sitting here who are not married, but I want to be explicit. I did say it. When you have a choice, you, for example, have orange juice, apple juice, you've got 10 juices in front of you, you've got a choice because all of these are halal. You have a choice to choose from which juice you want to drink. Everyone paying attention? All of these are halal, so you have a choice which halal drink you want to use. But if you don't have any of those halal juices and you have dirty water in front of you, can you drink that? No. But if you're dying of thirst, can you? In Arabic, you say ikhtiyari when you have the choice, and idtirar. Everyone paying attention to this point? So ikhtiyar when you have all halals, and idtirar when you have no halal means. Did everyone follow that? So you can only drink dirty water when there is idtirar, when there is no choice. You're compelled to save your life and drink dirty water. Divorce is not a choice. It is just like drinking dirty water. If you have no other choice but divorce, that's when you divorce. There's an article I was reading recently, not recently, but probably a few months ago, that they asked an elderly couple, how long have you been married? They said, over 60 years. Did you not ever have a fight? They said, we always fought. Then why didn't you get divorced? They said, because we come from an age where you repaired, not replaced. Did anyone get it? We are in an age where you say, okay, get rid of the car, get a new one. We are in an age of replace, not repair. He said, we come from an age where you repaired the table, everything you repaired. So you repair your relationships. You don't replace your relations. One of the most laid emphasis by Imam Raza, if you will read his works, is on, the family. Where he says about his own, how many brothers and sisters can anyone guess how many brothers and sisters he had? 36. Who said oof? You say, MashaAllah. Okay, 36 brothers and sisters he had. Yes, 18 brothers, including himself, and 19 sisters. 37 brothers and sisters. So he had 36 brothers and sisters. And and they all loved him. Not only because he is Imam, but he is living to be an exemplary life. You sometimes, the older brothers, they always treat the younger brother, you're younger. What? I'm only 2 years younger than you. Yes? Well, these days you only have 2 or 3 siblings, 1 or 2 siblings, except for people like me who have 5 children. So, with large families in olden times, people got along. They had small houses, but they had big hearts. Today, people have big houses, but small hearts. So they can't stand the other. They can't bear to be with the other, and they can't. The patience is key to Iman. You will never excel in Iman if you don't have patience. Amir al-Mu'minin al-Islam and all the Imams have said, patience is the key. Many people come to me and they say, Maulana, how many marriages have you solemnized? I said, I can't even remember, can't even count. 26 years I've been performing nikah, reading. What is one or 2 or 3 pieces of advice you would say? I would say 3 pieces of advice. First, patience. Second, patience. Third, patience. And today, we are in the age of gadgets. So concentration span is only 4 or 5 minutes. So patience is quite low. So people, within 4 or 5 minutes, because they are quickly going through from one scene to another. I sat down with a filmmaker. I know my time is finishing. And so this is a Shia filmmaker. He came to visit me and he said, Maulana, have you seen this film? I said, I haven't. He said, he got an award. I'm a director and producer. I've produced so many films. I produce new, concepts. Anyway, so he was trying to explain to me, and he said, I wanted to invite you, and he came to visit me in my house, and I said, tell me about filmmaking. How does it work? So he said, if you have a long scene, script, so a script has to be executed. Pay attention, everyone. He said, if there is a long scene, that 4 or 5 minutes, everyone will be lost. So what we do is we need to keep giving movements, otherwise the eyes, if they're not moving, they usually, become lazy and they go to sleep. So if there is a long scene, then we give background movement. I hope people are paying attention. He said there was a guy talking to the other and I had a horse moved from behind. So people are listening, but even for 4 or 5 minutes, people cannot pay attention. Can you imagine? We're living in an age. He said even for that, we have, we have to work in such a way that we can grab the attention of everyone. With so much going on in that industry, millions and billions are being spent, and we have to keep the attention of people for 45 minutes. And it's all one way, it's such a difficult thing. And everyone has to keep staring at one face. And that face may not be so nice looking like mine. So it is very difficult to, gather everyone's attention. I'm really, now paying attention to all of these different methods of tabligh. Wallahi, I pay attention so much that how can we do? And sometimes, these religious films, they have done a better justice to the lives of the Prophet and the A'immah alayhimus salam. Even I, when I was, the first time I watched the life of the Holy Prophet, the arrangements made, 3.5 hours, every 5 minutes I had tears in my eyes. And I said, I have read all of this. Not one. I have read probably 20, 30 books on the Holy Prophet, probably more. But I have never cried for 3 hours reading about the Holy Prophet, but I have cried 3 hours watching about the Holy Prophet. Because it gives you that touch, the difficulties he went through. So it is very important for all of us to try and learn from the lives and the words of the A'immah alayhimus salam and put all of those words into pictures and scenes that people can pay attention, grab attention, and those are the greatest tablighs for the A'immah Ahlulbait alayhimus salam. परवरदिगार हम सब की आक़िबत बखैर फरमा. मैंने कसीदे का वक्त अल्लाह करे ज़्यादा ना ले लिया हो. परवरदिगारा इस वक्त दुनिया भर में हालात ख़राब हैं, जंगों का ख़दशा है, हम सबको जंगों से महफूज फरमा. परवरदिगारा फ़लस्तीन में बहुत ज़्यादा हालात ख़राब हैं, फ़लस्तीन के मुसलमानों पर रहम फरमा. इराक़ में, ईरान में, अफ़गानिस्तान में, हिंदुस्तान, पाकिस्तान में, यमन में, कश्मीर में, शाम में, लुबनान में, अफ्रीका के ममालिक में हालात ख़राब है. सबकी हिफाजत फरमा. इस इमाम बारगाह को तरक्की इनायत फरमा. हम सबको, हमारे तमाम मरहुमीन को इमाम रज़ा अलैहिस्सलाम की शफ़ाअत नसीब फरमा. परवरदिगारा हमें ज़िंदगी में बार बार इमाम रज़ा अलैहिस्सलाम की ज़ियारत नसीब फरमा. परवरदिगारा दुनिया के हालात ख़राब हैं, हम सब के ईमान की हिफाजत फरमा. परवरदिगारा तुझे वास्ता अपने इज़्ज़त व जलाल का हमें साहिबुज़्ज़मान अलैहिस्सलाम का ज़हूर देखना नसीब फरमा. हमें हमारे इमाम के आवान व अंसार में शुमार फरमा. रब्बना तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंतस समीउल अलीम बिहक़्क़ि मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि तय्यबीन अत्ताहिरीन अल मासूमीन.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh and Kushali Mubarak. The Jamaat is pleased to announce the engagement of Hassan Ali Hassam, son of Sajida and Hasnain Mubarak Ali Hassam, to Sayyida Muqaddas Abidi, daughter of Hina and Sayyid Amjad Abbas Abidi. Can we please bless the couple with Raza Rizvi Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Can we please welcome my brother Amir Raza for tonight's Qasida? Salawatullah Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Maulana just said the attention span is 5 minutes. He's given me exactly 5 minutes till namaz. So it's perfect now. That means for the next 5 minutes I have your full attention. The mankabat is very simple. The words will come up on the screen. Arbab Raza Maula. So it's a very simple mankabat. The tune is very simple. For the next 5 minutes till namaz, can we please join in with it? First with a loud salawat. Arbab, 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 Raza Maula. Arbab, 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 Raza Maula. Arbab, arbab. MashaAllah. Arbab, arbab, arbab. Sultan Arab ke Sultan Arab Shah Khurasan. Arbab Raza Maula. Arbab, 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 Raza Maula. Arbab, arbab, Raza Maula. Arbab, 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 Raza. Arbab, arbab. کہ نوبت ہے تیری شاہی کا اعلان. نوبت ہے تیری شاہی کا اعلان. ارباب, ارباب, ارباب رضا مولا. سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان. ارباب رضا مولا. سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان. ارباب کہ تبدیلیاں تو لوح پہ کرتا ہے قلم سے. واقف ہے زمانہ تیرے انداز کرم سے. کہ اللہ بھی رکھتا ہے تیرا مان. ارباب, ارباب, ارباب رضا مولا. سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان. ارباب کہ روزے کی زیارت میں عجب حج کا مزہ ہے. زمزم ہے سبیل اور منا صحن شفا ہے. کہ روزہ ہے تیرا کعبہ ہے ایمان. ارباب, ارباب, ارباب رضا مولا. سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان. ارباب رضا مولا. ارباب, ارباب, ارباب رضا مولا. ارباب, ارباب کہ ہو آیا نجف پھر بھی خسارے میں رہے گا. ہو آئے نجف پھر بھی خسارے میں رہے گا. شبیر کے روزے پہ اسے کچھ نہ ملے گا. کہ ہے جان کے جو آپ سے انجان. ارباب, ارباب, ارباب رضا مولا. سلطان عرب شاہ خدا. از عرش برینست کہ مشهد با خدا قطعه از عرش برین است. جار و کش فرش حرمت روح الامین است که عقل بشر از فضل تو حیران. ارباب 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 رضا مولا سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان کہ تو جاگ رہا ہے تو میں سوتا ہوں سکون سے، کہ تو جاگ رہا ہے تو میں سوتا ہوں سکون سے، بندہ تیرا واقف ہے تیرے کن فیکون سے، کہ ہے تیرے تصرف میں میری جان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب کہ اولاد کا طالب کوئی طالب ہے شفا کا، معصومہ کم کا انہیں دے دیجئے صدقہ، کہ ان سب پہ بھی کر دیجئے احسان، ارباب 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 رضا مولا سلطان عرب شاہ خراسان، ارباب رضا مولا ارباب 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 رضا مولا ارباب 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 سورۃ المبارک الفاتحہ۔
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما